I keep wanting to escape from the latest grid operator proposals addressing large loads, but it's like I'm helplessly ensnared in that tractor beam from Star Trek. I simply cannot get away. That's because, to just hopelessly overuse this analogy, the gravitational exertion of these massive new loads on the grid is tremendous, seemingly affecting everything around it, such as power quality, energy prices, capacity auction results, and overall grid reliability. So this week, we're going back to PJM, which just came out with a plan submitted to the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, the FERC, called the Interim Resource Adequacy Service, or IRAS. It asked the FERC to accept the petition within 60 days. I see the word interim, and I immediately get the sense this will be some kind of measure that was stapled on top of something else, which it kind of is. So let's dig in to understand what it means and some of the key provisions. IRAS is intended to address new large load customers, read data centers. In fact, the grid operator comments in its filing that of the 32 gigawatts of growth forecasted in PJM's future demand between 2024 and 2030, 30 gigawatts of that is attributed to data centers. PJM focuses on these data centers that don't provide their own supply in the IRAS, when the grid is highly stressed and ready to call on demand response resources to shed load, or go even further into other emergency responses, such as rotating blackouts. PJM would institute an emergency notification procedure, signaling utilities to reduce or transfer large load electricity demand from these new large load customers. The large loads that haven't developed their own new capacity or haven't covered their demand through the reliability backstop procurement, another special process starting this fall, will they be subject to IRAS? All large loads would be tracked through a PJM-maintained large load registry that would also register existing large loads, and that would furnish relevant information to states, utilities, and relevant regulatory agencies so they can apply the IRAS service to large load customers if they desire. PJM notes that the IRAS proposal is designed to play nice with state authorities, allowing state-level entities to oversee and manage established and regulated retail load reduction plans and retail cost allocation. At the same time, PJM would retain the tools needed to maintain critical grid reliability. IRAS would require utilities and other load-serving entities, such as retail suppliers, to acquire sufficient new capacity in an amount to equal or exceed the combined peak demand of new large loads. And if they fail to do that, then during a grid emergency, PJM would direct those zones to reduce demand in proportion to their share of new large load that isn't covered by new generation before any demand response resources are called upon. PJM's filing notes that the IRAS approach is in line with the White House Ratepayer Protection Pledge, committing participants to, quote, build, bring, or buy the new generation resources and electricity needed to satisfy their new energy demands, unquote. PJM further notes that large loads ordered to cut demand could receive credits for their actions, and that states and local utilities would manage how these retail costs are shared among customers in affected areas. But it also helpfully comments that, quote, large loads could also waive that compensation consistent with the Ratepayer Protection Pledge to protect the American people from increased utility bills as a result of the development of these data centers, unquote. Nudge, nudge. The peer pressure and shame element. One critical piece that's important to highlight. Beginning with the 2029-2030 base residual capacity auction scheduled to take place in December, new large loads that arrive without requisite supply won't be included as demand when calculating future power needs to be procured in these auctions. Now, besides the holidays, we have another reason to keenly anticipate the darkest month of the year, because these results will tell us a lot about the cost of capacity without all forecasted data load. It'll tell us how much others have been paying, and by extension, it may well validate the calculations of the independent market monitor that estimated the cost of the last 4 capacity auctions from mid-2025 through mid-2029. The first one, you remember, was uncapped. The following 3 were capped at $325 per megawatt day. All of the caps were hit. Well, it noted that of those auctions, and the capacity charges, $63 billion resulted, and 29.4% of that, or about 46%, was related to large loads. Most of them, by the way, projected rather than actually having been built. So this December auction will give us yet another clear idea of the costs paid by other PJM ratepayers that they wouldn't have borne in a world without data center load. And it's another reason to strongly dislike, if you're a PJM ratepayer, that new neighbor planning to move in down the block. Well, thanks for watching, and we'll see you again soon.